Hi creatives, I am Dima and you're welcome to another interesting sewing tutorial. On today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you how to cut this trendy underbust backless dress with gathered flay. Yes, it also has a shirred part, like the mid part has gather with rubber. You can see what the pattern looks like. At the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to draft an underbust backless dress and take contour guidelines for it. You'll be able to cut a shirred underbust, yes, because this has a rubber gathered midriff, midpoint of this dress, and also be able to do slash and spread for a flea. Okay, if this sounds like what you're interested in, then you have to stick around till the end. I started this pattern by drawing a starting point at the beginning, just as you can see right here, and I had to go ahead and take my basic neck measurement, and that is 3 by 3. Go ahead and connect just like this. If your client is a bit on the big side, you can use 3.5 by 3.5. That would work perfectly well. Now the next thing is to go ahead and take your shoulder measurement divided by 2, and that is what I took at 2 positions, and I had to connect to form a vertical line, just as you can see right here. I had to drop by 1 inch and connected this to the neckline just like this. So after doing that, the next thing is to go ahead and get the bust point, and of course the front half length, which is the waistline. Okay, mark it and then mark it at another position so that we'll get a straight horizontal line. That is why I'm marking it at least 2 different points. So I'm going to use my ruler and connect, just as you can see right here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and take the hip level. So I didn't really get this to the hip. I got it to 7 inches below the half length, yes, because this is where I want to use and do the first coach for the flea. Now I had to go ahead and label bust, waistline, and of course around hip, that is close to my hip line. But this is what I'm going to use as the first coach of the flea that we are going to get from this pattern. Yes, I'm going to get the flea right from the basic pattern. So watch and you will understand everything I did. So the next is to go ahead and take your bust measurement divided by 4. Whatever your bust measurement is, if it is 40, divide it by 4 and mark. So when you mark at 2 points like this, go ahead and connect with your vertical line, just like so. Now the next is to go ahead and mark 5 inches down, going by 3.5 inch, and then you have to draw your armhole measurement divided by 2. And the armhole is around where the hand joins to the body. When you measure round snugly, you just add 2 inches to it. Just measure round firmly and add 2 inches to it. So after that, I'll go ahead and measure the waist measurement divided by 4. Okay, after that I will mark. I added that intake of 1 inch to that measurement. Then you have to connect this to the side just like this. Okay, so after doing this, I will go ahead and take the dart. So I got the midpoint around 4 inches from the fold line. I had to mark ½ inch on both sides of this 4 inches. Mark 4 inches from this fold line, dropped by 1 inch. Ensure this has 4 inches from the fold line again. So I'm going to use this and draw my darts. So after drawing my dart, this is what I got. Now the next thing to do is to draw the side bust darts. Measure the difference between your front and the back half length. For the measurements I'm using, it is 1.5. So that is what I took and I connected to the bust point, just as you saw me do right now. So what I did was to measure my waist and get the half of it, added it from where the waistline stopped, and I had to mark it and of course extend the line. I had to use the same measurements and go down and mark like this, and then I'm using my ruler to take it just down vertically. So the length of this paper is what is forming the length of my dress. So after doing this, the next thing I'll do is to take the on the bust level. So that is what I just marked here, and I had to go up by about 3/4. You can use half as well. So when you go up, mark the under bust just as you can see me do, and I had to connect just as you can see. So feel free to mark your under bust the way you know. You can take from shoulder and neck and come down to the under bust, or from the nipple to the under bust. Okay, whichever way you know, take that. So I had to drop the waistline by 1 inch down. Yes, I had to do that because that is where the shear got to. If you look at the pinned pinned picture. Okay, so you can see how I dropped it here, and I had to go ahead and make this on the bust line visible. So now this is the 4 inches I added. I had to mark it up there and connect to the vertical line I've already done earlier. So the excess on this waistline is because I want to use rubber thread for the waistline, but this is a drafting tutorial, please, so I'm not going to be doing that. I believe that you know how to use your rubber thread and your thread to form shear on a fabric. So that is what I'm doing right here. So you have to drop your neckline, just as you can see. This neckline drop is almost at the underbust, just like 3/4 inch, upwards of the underbust. So I had to draw my neckline just as you can see right now, and I will mark 1/2 inch on the 2 sides of this line I drew. Now I'll connect like so to the bust point. Now this is a contour guideline. This is a contour guideline because the neckline is quite dropped, and if I don't do this, the neckline is going to gape. So ensure to do this so that your neckline does not look saggy. Now the next thing to do is to draft the armhole area, okay? To connect this armhole area the way I want it. Now what I'm going to do is to start from around the underbust and connect to the armhole just as I'm illustrating right now. Except you want it any other way, you can feel free to do what you please, but we are drafting exactly the style that is on the pinned post. So watch how I am connecting it to the armhole. So this is exactly what you're going to do, and if you want, you can curve up on the bust like this. Yes, if you don't want it to go straight, you can go up by the side there by 1/2 inch and connect back to the underbust. So this is what I have after drafting. Now I will also go ahead and touch the shoulder area like this. So I had to come in there by 1 inch and connect it to the armhole, just as you can see here. Now the next thing to do is to extend this part. Yes, because this will be forming the lacing or the loop that will be tied at the back of the neck. Okay, just as you can see on the pinned post. So this will be extended when we get to that stage. So you have to cut out this, and we will continue with the pattern making. For this part that I'm shedding now, this part of the dart, it will form part of what will be shared or gathered with the rubber thread. Okay, so you go ahead and cut out. Now I'm going to tighten this armhole area, very, very important. So you're going to do yours like that. Just draw a line straight from the armhole to the bust point and take 3/8 inch from both sides of this line. That is a total of 3/4 inch. Okay, that is 0.75 inch. So that is what I took here, and you will see how I'm going to be transferring all of this to the underbust that. So this is what I have. That is the waistline that. Just watch closely and you'll understand everything I'm doing. So go ahead and cut out this part as we continue with the whole pattern making process. So after this is what I have for this upper part. I'll first of all cut open from the under to the bust point. Then I'll cut here open and of course close up this neckline contouring. So you can see that as I closed it out, it is forming a sort of not very smooth line there. Don't worry, we are going to through all of that. It is called throughing, okay? So I'm going to take care of all of that as we cut on another paper, which will serve as the fabric, okay? So now you can see that I've taped this down again. So I'm also going to, close up this other part, which is the side bust dart. So now I've closed the neckline contouring, the armhole contouring, and of course the side bust dart. Here will be extended, right? And all those places I'm going to smoothen it when I cut on the final paper. So right here is the midriff or the middle part of this dress, which will be gathered with rubber thread. You know that when you're using rubber thread to gather, you put the rubber thread on the bobbin as a bobbin. Yes, it will be inside the shuttle. So right here will be gathered on this part. So I'm going to show you all of that. Now you're going to close the dart and measure what it is when it is closed. Okay, this is because this will be useful when we are stitching the cloth all together. So right here is the slash lines for the fleece. So watch closely to see what I did for the fleece. So you're going to draw your slash lines like this. It can be more than this in number, right? So but I just drew 3 slash lines because I feel that is enough for what I want to do. So you go ahead and cut them open and then spread. So I'm going to get another paper right now, and this paper that I'm getting now, I am using it in the form of fabric. The only difference is that I did not add seam allowance. So when you're cutting on your fabric, you definitely be adding your seam allowances. Maybe I would have added it so that it will be clear, but I know that you will understand, right? So just go ahead and slash your slash lines, cut it open just as you can see me do, and go ahead and spread just as you can see me do right here. So when you have finished spreading, you can go ahead and pin it down for ease, okay? But I knew I could manage it, so I had to go ahead and draw this part, draw this other part, and of course the hemline, just as you can see right here. Now after cutting it open, after drawing all of those lines, you're going to mark where the shorter flay will be. That is what I just did. So you see how I'm going to be using that. So now what I'm cutting out, you know, is unfold. This is how the flay is going to be, and this is just for the front. To get the back, you cut exactly this again for the back, or you can put zipper allowance if you're putting zipper at your back. So what I did now is to place it on this paper. The paper I'm placing it on is still unfold to cut out the, you know, shorter flay. So I had to draw the hemline just as you can see, and I had to take another level. I had to go up by about ½ inch because that fold line did not get to the level of the flay. So that is what I'm measuring. So the new length of this smaller flay is just ½ inch less than what it was before, because this paper could not give me up to that length. That is the only reason why I had to shorten it. Okay, so just to manage my paper. So go ahead and cut out like this. Note that if you're cutting on fabric, you're definitely going to put your seam allowances of about 1 inch if you want a pocket to be by the side, but ½ inch is fine if you don't need a pocket. So you know this will be gathered like this, just as you can see in on the pinned post. And yes, when we get to that, you will see all of that. So the next one is to go ahead and cut this midriff, the middle part of this center front. So I had to place my paper on fold. Of course, if it's your fabric, this is how you're going to place it on fold. And then I will keep my pattern, the drafted pattern, on this paper and go ahead and cut it out. I hope this makes sense. So I had to pin it down and cut it out on fold, but I still did not put the seam allowance. Note that when you're cutting on fabric, you will put your seam allowances on all of these patterns, okay? So, and this is what I got. You're going to cut it with ½ inch seam allowance all through, aside the side. So now what I'm doing is to cut the back at once. You can see that I shifted 1 inch in, that is the zipper allowance, okay? So, and I'm going to cut out. You can also see that around the center front for that front, I had to ensure that it did not enter this back. Yes, because we don't need that sharp part for the back. So if you don't want the zipper for this bag, this is how you're going to fold it in. Yes, of course it will enter because it is longer than it should, because you know this waistline is gathered with rubber thread. So yes, it will still enter even if you don't put zipper. But feel free to do what you please. You can add zipper, you can still do it without zipper. If you're adding zipper, of course the flay at the back will have zipper allowance at the center back of the flay as well. I hope this makes sense. So right now I'm folding this fabric to help cut out the pattern of this upper part, yeah, the bralette part of this beautiful dress. So you can see how I am truing this pattern. You know, when I closed up all of these contour guidelines and that's the pattern was unequal, looking unequal, and I said that when I'll be cutting the final one, which is this one, I will be blending all of that, and that is what I just did. That is how to blend even this on the bust. That this is how you're going to like take the shape of that like an arc. So after taking it, we're going to extend this. You're going to make this part as long as you want it, but long enough to tie on the back of the neckline, and of course form a sort of bow at the back so that it will appear beautiful. Okay, so this is what I have, and I'm going ahead to cut it out. I'm just taking the whole length of the paper to give enough allowance for the tying. So if you want to do this, you can make whatever you want to tie to be like maybe around 18 inches. Around 18 inches, I think it's fine, so that it will tie and still drop, and it will be very beautiful. So this is what I have. I'm going to close up this part. I'm closing up both the darts. You know, there is that intake apart from the spread that is, you know, realized from the closing of the contouring, and of course the side bust dart. There is also a dart there that I closed up. So as you can see, I did it right here. I believe you saw that. You just have to measure. I got 8.5, and when I measured this one is 11.5. Note that you're going to use gather stitch and gather it back to 8.5 before you stitch it to the middle part of this dress after having, you know, shirred the middle part. Shirred, that is shirred. Okay, after that, you're going to join the upper and of course the lower. This is what the upper part looks like. Isn't this beautiful? So this is the back part, of course with zipper. So this whole pattern is the same apart from the back. The midriff is different for the back. You know, that sharp upwards thing at the center front midriff is not at the back. You saw me cut all of that, and this is what the front looks like. It's so gorgeous. Go ahead and do this and stitch yours and let me know what your result is. Trust me, it's going to come out very, very perfect. I took my time to show you how you take contour guidelines and everything you need for this beautiful dress. So if you want to tie the neckline, this is how you're going to tie it, and you can see how lovely it is. And of course, for the back, you can put it like this. If you want your zipper, go ahead and put your zipper, but ensure you put zipper allowance for the flea as well, because this is very important. If not, it's not going to work. If you don't want zipper, it's fine, because this has lots of rubber and gather, and it's definitely, you know, wider than it is. It's just the rubber thread that is holding it together. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and of course share so that others will see this. Love you all, and I'll see you in my next one.